It's official. Bill English is set to be New Zealand's 39th Prime Minister. After a roller coaster day, more than half of all National Party MPs have publicly declared their support for Mr English, leaving him as the only horse in the leadership race. Earlier this afternoon, Judith Collins conceded defeat, and in the last hour, Jonathan Coleman has held a press conference to also withdraw from the race. In a moment, we'll speak with Bill English, but first, here's our Deputy Political Editor Chris Bramwell.
This morning, just a handful of MPs have publicly declared their support for Bill English, and most of those were his cabinet colleagues. But as the day went on, that trickle became a flood, and by the time MPs were making their way to the House for question time this afternoon, Mr English clearly had the support he needed to win Monday's vote. Judith Collins could see the writing on the wall.
I came into this process for leadership after several caucus colleagues asked me to. Caucus wanted to have the opportunity to have a contest of ideas and to have a vote. It is clear to me that 50% of caucus support Bill English as the leader, and therefore, as far as I'm concerned, he has won.
Judith Collins urged her supporters to get in behind Mr English so the party could look ahead to winning next year's election. Minutes later, the soon-to-be Prime Minister Bill English told reporters he appreciated Ms Collins' support.
She's been part of a pretty interesting and constructive discussion among the caucus that's helping reset the government after John Key's departure.
Do you expect Jonathan Coleman to withdraw as well?
Oh, look, that's a matter for Jonathan.
Just a couple of hours later, Dr Coleman told reporters he'd been to see Bill English and congratulate him on becoming the next Prime Minister.
I'm going to be supporting him 100% because it's absolutely vital that the party comes together, gets on with the job of winning the next election, which I believe we will win, and then supports Bill as Prime Minister through a fourth term and then beyond that to the election in 2020.
The news today that the Labour MP David Shearer is set to leave Parliament after being put forward for a United Nations job means there's likely to be a by-election in his Mount Albert seat. The Labour leader Andrew Little says given that, and with John Key's resignation, the earlier the election next year, the better.
You've got a new Prime Minister who doesn't have an electorate-wide mandate, an MP now who is definitely going to go, two other MPs frankly biding their time. It's starting to look like a pretty ropey end to this Parliament, and it may just, to short-circuit the whole thing, go to the country and let's have the argument about the issues that matter right now.
But Bill English will not be drawn on whether he will go to an early election.
Oh, look, not discussing any of that. There's, we're in a process that goes through to Monday. And nothing really changes until then.
But Mr English did today announce that his replacement as Finance Minister would be Stephen Joyce. Not surprisingly, Mr Joyce is pretty stoked.
Oh, if I got the job, I'd be very excited. I've been Associate Finance now, working alongside Bill for the last 8 years. It's been a long and enjoyable apprenticeship. We get on very well together, and I'm very much looking forward to having that opportunity if it comes to pass.
With Mr English's numbers looking solid, the real race now is for the deputy role. Both Paula Bennett and Simon Bridges have publicly declared they want the job, but there may be others who put their hat in on Monday. Atu i te whare pārimata mō te hōtaka o te ahiahi, ko Chris Bramwell aho.